All right, welcome back to Motivating Community Voice. As y'all see, we have a new guy on here. It's a twin to Mr. Cotton. He's smoking a cigar. It's triplets, just the FYI, it's 3 of them. So one is in the house, one is in the car, and one is outside right now. All right. So back to the fatherhood. All right, we discussed proper etiquette, opening doors for women, things of that nature. Being a gentleman. We discussed that, and being an example to our young ladies and young men that's possibly gonna be men, fathers in the future. So, all right, we touched on that. I'm gonna stray away from it a little bit. We'll come back. Courtney, you got out of the house on that. So being a father, all right, I guess this will go to Courtney and Mr. Cotton. Being a father, what's the most difficult part about being a father? The most difficult part.
Hearing an excuse.
Say that again.
Hearing an excuse for why something wasn't done correctly.
Okay.
Especially when you've went over that particular subject.
Are you talking about the father, or are you talking about the child?
Hearing an excuse from your child.
Right. Okay. And
after you went over a particular subject numerous of times.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said, something about putting gas in the car. If you drove the car, then you got to replace the gas in the car.
Right. Especially if I taught you, hey, put some gas in the car, because I ain't gonna lie, I'm tired. I might not be able to do it when you need me to, but put some gas in the car. Okay, I can get that. The what is that? The repetitive learning teachings, right, or whatever. Yeah. Okay. What about you, Courtney?
Repeat the question again.
What's the most difficult part about being a father?
For me, it's just, as always, how to handle each situation as it comes. You know what I'm saying? Because situation come that you don't expect to come.
Yeah.
One of my sons, you know what I'm saying? They want to know where babies come from. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this was probably about 3 years ago. They're 13, 14, and 7 years old. But the 14-year-old wants to know where, honest, trying to know where babies come from. So my oldest son, he ended up getting online, and he researched it.
Right.
He researched it.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did he find out where babies come from, he found out how they're made as well. Well, guess what? I didn't know about it. My wife knew about it. I was out of town working. So when she told him, I have to tell your father, he was crying, saying, why do you have to tell him? She said, well, he needs to know. So when she told me before I went and talked to him, I said, I wonder why he didn't want to tell me.
Right.
So when I went to him and began to open up the conversation with him, I said, why didn't you want to tell me? And he said he was scared. And I said, but I understand what you're going through right now. I said, those images won't leave your mind, will they? And he said, nope. Every time you try and go to sleep, you're seeing those images over and over and over again. And innocence was trying to be taken away from him.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I said, come here, son. I said, let me lay hands on you and pray for you and rebuke those images from your mind, because that's not what God wants for you. You know what I'm saying? I said, God, the relationship between man and woman was created by God for this purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of gave him a light education on it, and I prayed for him. Right. So that the images, but just those type of situations is like, well, if I was younger back in my time, if I would have told my mom or something that I saw a pornographic image, I probably would have got beat, you know what I'm saying, for that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it was in my innocence. So in his innocence, he saw it, but he didn't want to see it. And then the image was trying to torment his mind, but he didn't want to tell me. But in not telling me, he kept, even with my other son, he saw we don't watch scary movies. So he saw a scary image, but I kind of sensed that something, he didn't tell me, but I kind of sensed something was going on because he wouldn't sleep in his own room.
Behavior change.
He would try and sleep in my room because every time he slept in our room, he would have peace. Okay. But when he goes into his room, the images would torment his mind. Okay. So he finally comes. I say, Justin, what's going on? Why aren't you sleeping in your room? And then he finally opens up to tell me why he's not sleeping in the room. And I say, now you understand why we tell you we're trying to protect you. We're not trying to keep things away from you. We're trying to protect you for what's trying to consume you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's those situations. So I pray for him and everything and rebuke the images from his mind so that he can get some sleep. But with those type of situations, it's like, how do you handle those? You know what I'm saying? When they come. So that's the whole thing for me, handling the situations as they come day by day. I remember my son, Justin, he was 8 years old, and the school that he was going to was 3 miles away from the house. We didn't even know the boy knew how to get back to home. Well, something happened at school, and he was just trying to get back to a safe place. So he ended up leaving the school, and everybody's looking for him. He's walking back to the house because he's trying to get to a place that he felt safe. You know what I'm saying, at the house. But was he right for that? No. So then we're panicking, and we like, how do you handle the situation? We don't want to yell at him for leaving because he didn't know he was trying to get to a safe place at the same time putting himself in danger. But he didn't know it was a mind of an 8-year-old, 7-year-old child. Right. You know, so it's just situations like that how do you handle it? And that's why I constantly say, and this is not just rhetoric, I always lean on God and ask him, how do I handle this so that I will not push this son away from in the future?
Yeah. And Courtney, you might have to have your own show, man. We'll have to have just us three on here because y'all saying some powerful stuff. Like a lot, you don't hear like I said, you don't hear fathers talking the way that y'all talking right now. I mean, I haven't heard it, but it's some out there, but I'm just like, I'm a little, that's why if you notice, I'm not even asking the women too many questions because it's like, why are y'all here? No disrespect, but it's like this conversation, I told Mr. Cotton, this conversation, we got a lot to talk about. So I appreciate y'all, but y'all only can help me on the other side of the spectrum as far as like being raised by a man.
I wanted to respond to what Courtney said. I think his son being fearful of explaining it to him is kind of a good thing because that means he's taught him a form of discipline to a certain point to where he knows about being respectful. I mean, we all
and he knew it was wrong.
Right. We all done things as children, or even to this day, we do things and to where we know it might not be right, but we did it, and we're skeptical about how to bring it to the parents' attention or your supervisor's attention.
Right.
But it can work for you. It can work against
you. Yeah.
So I mean, in that respect, it was a kind of a good thing that he had some fearfulness about bringing it to his father.
Right.
So I mean, there's a way to look at it as though he respects his dad.
Right. And then on the proactive side of being a father, like Courtney did very well as far as intervening before it got out of hand too. Even though the child was, oh no, I'm not gonna tell dad, I'm scared to tell dad. When Courtney finally approached him about it, he kind of like set that tone where you can still talk to me about anything. You don't have to go to Mr. Cotton and learn about how babies are. You could come right here. I'll tell you if need be, but I'm also gonna pray over you before I do anything. So in Courtney's response, like that's a good intervention, right? I think it's a perfect intervention to, especially to the kids coming up now. Because if Courtney wouldn't respond the way he responded and just said, you know what, I'm gonna let him learn on his own. Because that's what type of dad I am. I'm gonna say what I gotta say, but I'm also gonna be like, hey, look, I said what I had to say. If you go out there and go against what I said, I can't do nothing for you, but wait for you to come back to me. You know, so.
Well, just a couple of weeks ago, my 16-year-old son asked me something and I'm driving, and it took everything I could not to slam on brakes and go like, what did you just say? And the question was, how does blind men or blind people have children? And I'm like, what? It's like I wanted to laugh.
That's a good thing.
I wanted to laugh, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I know we had this conversation.
Okay.
So it was like one of them head scratches, like,
did he understand?
Just ask me that question?
Right.
Did I miss something? Because I know we had this conversation a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to say let me get politically correct, visually impaired people had children, and I'm like, wow, man. I say, okay, we got to talk about this one.
Oh yeah.
Did
y'all have a conversation just to stay on the subject?
I was too much in shock. Because I still gotta go back and have this conversation with him, because it was like I'm trying to avoid just busting out laughing.
Yeah.
So I'll have my son this weekend coming up for Father's Day weekend. So I think that's one of the things we're gonna talk about probably on Friday evening when I pick him up. Because it's in the back of my mind, and it's like when Courtney brought that up, I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go.
See, so let me say this then, since we're on that subject. The way Courtney handled his situation, are you gonna handle it that way?
I'm just gonna tell him point blank. I'm just gonna run it back down to
don't let him look at the
conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. I mean,
right.
A couple of years ago. I don't know if I'm gonna do the video thing or go to Google, but I'm just gonna remind him, just because people are visually impaired don't mean they're not human.
I'm saying as far as laying hands on them before, not laying hands on them like, boy, get over here, let me tell you how to do it. I'm talking about laying hands and praying over them like Courtney did.
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's a challenge. It's a challenge for you. That's what we learn at.
Yeah, I mean, I try to learn from everybody.
Right.
Children, adults, supervisors, the media. Sometimes you got to take things in and let it marinate, and then you be like, yeah, I think I might want to do that. Like I said, he just brought something back up to me. He brought it back up to my forethought, like, oh wow, I got to do that.
Hey, look, here we go. We're gonna stay on that for a minute. Courtney.
Yeah.
A quick minute, couple seconds. What advice would you have for Mr. Cotton in handling that situation?
Well, the same thing I give to anybody that I'm talking to. I say, pray about it.
Okay. So let's get to praying, Mr. Cotton. And when Father's Day get here, episode 1 of this will be out. So he won't see it until after y'all pray and stuff and discuss it. So when he let me know how it went, just text me and say, hey, it went well. So Courtney said we're gonna pray. All right, Miss Lisa. All right, so you got one son. Renee, you got 2, right? If your
my stepson too.
Your who?
My stepson too.
You got a step?
Mike Jr.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot about him. So what Courtney said and what Mr. Cotton said, if you was to put both of them in one and become a father, how would you approach that situation? Was it porno, Courtney, or was it just?
I mean, it was him seeing how babies made, and then it turned to seeing what babies come from, then it turned to how they're made. So I guess it was porno. Okay, so that situation and Mr. Cotton's situation, as far as the blind being impregnated or having kids, I'm trying not to even joke about it, because I'm gonna leave it alone. So how would you approach that?
if you was a father, these two guys in one, I'm not gonna put me in because I'd be like, boy, you don't make kids with your ass, you know. So it's all about feel, you know. Pray for me, Courtney. Pray for me. Go ahead, Renee. Say what you want to say. Lisa, you could take over if Renee not ready. Let's go.
Let Lisa go. Sorry.
Cause boy.
You know what's funny, Marcus? I think one thing that I've learned is I think parents, we forget how it was to be that age to a certain extent. So, you know, any instance, any situations with my son, I always try to go back to when I was that age. How did I think? So I agree with Courtney. I think praying and I agree with Aaron to talk, because I think back in the day, parents weren't as open, I think, as we are today.
Yeah.
And that's why when you think back like 40, 50 years ago, how young girls got pregnant at 16.
Yeah.
They get pregnant today at 16, but back then it was all on ignorance. You know, if you kiss the boy, you get pregnant.
Sneaking around,
Sneaking around. They didn't teach them about birth control, and birth control probably wasn't as big as it is now. But you just have to put yourself in put your mind in the mindset of your own child. And I think Renee said is that you really have to know your children.
Right.
You have to know your children. You have to know if they're more quiet than usual. That's when you go and say, hey, what's going on?
Learning
like
that behavior.
Me as a mother, I you know me, Marcus, I would just keep going on, what's wrong, you know. But I always still try to put myself in their shoes. But it's hard being a parent, and I think it's double hard being a father, because children have a tendency to go to moms about everything before they go to fathers, because of the fear of the father
lashing out,
responding, calling them names, you know, being embarrassed.
Speaking of calling them names, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm stuck. Mr. Cotton, when he asked you that question, what was the first name that popped up in your head?
I was just stunned. I mean, it was like I said, I was driving when he asked me that. So it was like, do I hit the brake, pull over?
And say, boy.
It go, what the? You know, so I tried to just maintain my composure, you know, and I said, yeah, I guess we got to talk again.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm telling you, I was just too outdone with that question.
Okay.
So I didn't think about calling no name. You know, I try not to call my children names or belittle them. I mean, because I always told them there's no no dumb question.
Right.
And I try to stick to that. As hard as it and more difficult it is, I still try to stick to that same discipline with myself. You know, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Right.
Because I want them to be able to
ask it if he didn't know. I mean, he wouldn't have asked it if he knew.
If he knew, right.
So you have to look at it in that sense.
Right. Like I said, I was just, you might as well just slapped me. Yeah, you might as well just slap me and I'd have been like, what you do that for? You know, that's how I felt. So I laughed it off. And then, like I said, when Courtney brought it back up, I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta talk about that. You know. So I didn't think about calling him any name or anything as, you know, or dummy or anything like that. That was the furthest thing from my mind. It was just like I say, it was a caught off guard situation. You know.
Now this is your son. You said he's 16 and he asked you this question.
Yeah.
And this is your same son that looked up the information and got.
No, that was Courtney's
that was
son.
Courtney. That was
Courtney's
Courtney.
son.
It's a different situation. It was a different situation.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at Lisa over there.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
Do your son know how to make children?
I mean, Renee, here go the mama. Here come the mama. This is a daddy show.
I talked to both of my sons about this like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
I know
So he
I did,
does
because I
have
remember, right, because
the
I remember
concept of how to make it.
yeah, I remember where we were when we talked about it. You know, we were at a restaurant when we started talking about it.
Mm.
Somehow the subject came up, and I know we talked about it right then and there, because we rolled into another conversation after that. So I know we talked about it.
Okay.
So maybe he got
Marcus,
short-term memory loss.
you actually gave the answer, but how would he present it?
Who? Me?
Yeah, you gave the answer.
No, I asked how would you present it?
No, I'm saying how would he? Yeah, I'm saying you kind of gave the answer, like you
Well,
kind of not always looking, it's more so off of feel or touch
right,
or whatever. So
right. Oh, you
how
said I gave him the answer.
yeah.
What's your son? Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me.
But he has to put it in his way and how he would,
And that's your response to the question. Okay, I got you. All right. So this part of the show, we're gonna ask random off guard questions. All right. Feel free to ask me questions if y'all want. And I have the choice to say pass, which I would pass it to whoever I say. And y'all could do the same thing. I'm gonna start with Renee, since Marcus did. All right. So if my dad, you gotta fill in the blank. If my dad would have blank, I would have been blank.
oh, right. You put me on the spot.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
Who you passing it to?
I'll give it to Lisa.
Dang, Lisa, she bogus. Go ahead. If my dad was blank, I would have been blank. Or should I just take the bin out and I would have blank? Lisa ain't gonna pass. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. She gonna sit there and make it a puzzle. I know Lisa.
If my dad was alive.
Woo, that was in my head. I'm telling you.
If my dad was alive, I think my situation would have been different. I think my dad probably would have been tougher on me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As his daughter. So yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know if I would be a different person. And
Okay.
I'm not saying it in a negative way.
Right.
I
Just
think
you,
that my dad
you'd have had more things instilled in you than what you have now, or different things. Different.
Maybe some different things, but I think he would have been strict for me to where I don't know. Maybe I would have been a little different. Maybe not necessarily my personality, but I mean it's hard to say. I
probably wouldn't have met you or anything. He probably would have made
No,
you stay.
No, you probably wouldn't have. Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. I think dating would have been tough. Dating definitely would have been tough.
Okay.
For me to bring a man or young man to the house.
Okay.
I do.
All right, Miss Lisa, you can start the next question to whoever you want.
Okay. I gotta pass, Marcus. You put me in the spot.
No, you could just ask a question, any father question to anyone. Who you gonna pass it to then?
I'll pass it to Aaron. I guess my question would be, did he think being a father would be as hard or easy as it is?
Ooh, that's
Fatherhood
a good question.
is not hard. It's rather interesting and challenging, and it's fun because when you take time out to try to show them different things, it can be humorous, it can be frustrating, but you make the best out of it when you can. Prime example, teaching my oldest son how to ride a bike was easier than teaching my younger son how to ride a bike.
Okay.
You know, I enjoy it. I mean, I hated I waited so long to have my children. I mean, I waited till I was like 35 to have my first son. So my energy level would have been different if I had them at a younger age, if I had started at a younger age. So, I mean, I enjoy it. It's great. Yeah. I mean, this son now is away in college and I still have anxieties or, you know, missing him. You know, I know he can handle his own, but I still had that separation anxiety.
Right.
And next year I'll have my 16-year-old gone. Well, he'll be 17, so he'll be graduating next year. So I'll be going through separation anxiety again. I won't have nobody to mess with during the week or whatever.
You're gonna be putting more than cigars in your mouth in a minute. You're gonna go to one of them cannabis dispensaries or something. All right, y'all, we got 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So I'm gonna let Aaron go ahead and ask the next question.
My question would be to Courtney. Being a father, is it more challenging, more easy for you?
That's a kind of, I don't know, because I didn't have that. My father wasn't really in my life like that. So, but I do remember the good times that he was in there. You know, my father would come in town, but he would leave out to go work. But I would see him sporadically, you know. So I didn't have any reference of what a father should be when I had my son. Okay, so easy or hard, me, I just kind of go with the flow of how it goes.
Right, you was learning.
It's not easy or hard for me. It's just me living and loving my kids. That's for me. Because I don't look at it as easy or hard. I married my wife, and she said that she didn't want to work while the kids were, you know, going to school and everything.
Right.
And I honored that. And so I've been the provider. So my whole thing was I started going out of town as well to work as well. And it's not because I wanted to be away from my kids. I started going out of town because that's where my job sent me. But then I started seeing the same pattern going on, and God opened my eyes to see the same pattern that was going on between with what I was doing with my children and what my dad done to me. So God was telling me to resign from my position, but I was like, I got to take care of my kids, and I wouldn't resign. And the time that I resigned when my oldest son, who was 13, said, "Dad, when are you coming home?" And when he asked me when I was coming home, I said, "Nope, it's time for me to resign."
Yeah,
you know, because my son is getting to an age where he's going into high school, and he needs me there. Yeah. He needs me there. So now he goes to high school in Michigan, 2 hours away from our house, and the wife and him stays up in Michigan, or we swap, and I stay home with the two kids. She stays up in Michigan with him, or when I can, when my work, because I have my own business now, when my work allows me, then I'll switch with her, and she comes back home, and I'll stay up there with him. And my whole motto was this: if I did it for the company, if I was a traveling superintendent for the company for 7 to 8 years that I was working for, and they always had me on the road, and if I did that for them, why wouldn't I do it for my son? You know, so, and I do it for him, and I make sure he knows that. I say, they wasn't important to me. You are.
Right.
You know, so I do this for you. So even with me being on the road, every time I got home for the weekend, I would be out of town for 2 weeks and come in for the weekend, and then I had to fly out again. Every time I got home, it felt like I never left the house. Those 2 days, we packed in so much stuff And it felt like when I sat on that couch on a Friday or Saturday when I got in, it felt like I was never gone. And I know it was nothing but the grace of God that did that for me. So therefore, that's why I'm saying it was not hard nor easy for me. It was just, I'm going with the flow.
A way of life.
In their life, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Courtney, you get the next question. Courtney, you starting to be super dad of the year. Keep talking the way you, I mean, I the things he's saying is like for real. Like even when I go over there, I'm the guy daddy. Like when I go over there, you know what? We ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. We got 5 more minutes. Go ahead, Courtney. Ask the next question to whoever you want.
My question is to both of the women. How important do you think it is for children to forgive their, and this could be for everybody, all 4 of you guys, how important do you think it is for children to forgive their parents when they feel like the parent has done something wrong, or the parent not being in their lives like they think like the parent should be?
You said how do you think the children
how,
should forgive them?
No,
how important do you think it is for the children to forgive the parent? Because my father wasn't in my life, and I just, for my own sake, I forgave him. You know what I'm saying?
It's very important. You have to forgive, because if you don't, then that's something, if you're angry with that parent, that's something that's going to be within you, and you're going to have that bitterness. You have to forgive. And then, and also the children need to talk to the parent and let them know how they feel. And at that point, I feel the parent should apologize for that. And then from that day forth, should do whatever it takes to be a part of that child's life. You can't go back and change the past, but it's what we do right now, today, this day forth, as far as child and parent. So I just look at it that way. You can't make up or try to make up that time for what you lost with that individual, your children or whatever. I just think from that day forth, you should just show your love and be there for your child and speak with them and talk to them on a regular basis. That's how I feel about it.
I agree with you 100%, because in my situation, my son, I think I met my son when he was 13. And one thing I didn't do is try to make up for lost time. I know we got 2 more minutes, but I'm gonna keep it short. I didn't try to make up for lost time. I started right then and there. And like, he started hanging with his sisters, hanging around us or whatever when he did come through or whatever. And I never told him, I never expressed this. Hey, man, I got a lot of time to make up with you. I started right then and there. I gave him money just like I gave him money to go to the mall. He went out to eat with us. I went and picked him up to go to the park and play basketball or whatever. I started right then and there at that moment as far as building a relationship with him. I talked to him about the past, and that's what it was. I told him, I gave him the whole spiel on how things went. And I told him, hey, me, you, your mom, even the stepdad, it's all in your hands. You take control of this will. And if you want to put a meeting together with all 3 of us so you can understand what happened or whatever, if you want the truth, you could do that. You know, I instilled that in him, you know, but now he got a son. He's trying to be the father that he never had. So I think being there, starting that relationship from where it began. All right, so we got 1 minute. Lisa, you want to touch on her question? I mean, his question?
Well, I'm just going to say there's so many adults that went through a life of fathers not being in their lives because the mom stopped them. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you had a lot of men back there saying, well, I'll just wait till they're 18. And then it's too late because all the damage is done. And so if we all learn to forgive our past, and just move forward from where we're starting, move forward, and both sides does a forgiveness, I think there would be better father and children relationships. But it's so much hurt that people don't want to let go.
Okay.
I want to say this one thing before we end to all fathers who do have that situation where the mom won't let them see. Fight for your rights. You have rights.
Right.
Fight for your rights. Do not wait till your child is 18. Fight for your rights.
Right. That's true. I did. Okay, we got probably 20 seconds now. So closing statements real quick. Blah, blah, blah. Go.
Love your children.
All right. Lisa.
Hey, thanks to all the fathers that stepped up and continue to step up to be the men to guide their children to be better people.
Hey, sometimes it's hard to get back and you don't know how to get back, but try to get back.
And me, I'm gonna say thank you all for coming out. To all the fathers, RIP to Bishop James Moore,